David Ayeni. David Ayeni founded Creative Rhino, which is headquartered in London, UK. He is a proficient technical creative director with over 20 years experience delivering creative media projects and complex live productions in the United States, Europe, and Africa. He serves clients with a unique combination of technical expertise, creative inspiration, and leadership drive, never tiring in pursuit of the best possible results for his clients. He has a particular passion for finding the best way to bring messages to life and for passing on his skills to a new generation of designers and broadcast teams. He is very hands-on in the business and takes personal responsibility for making sure every project is delivered to the highest spec. He is specialized in 360 campaign, product marketing, product demos, TV broadcast, studio design and integration, multimedia workflow design and management, sales, marketing, and training. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you David Ayeni.
Thank you. Can you please sit down? Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you for having me here. Before I go and start talking about, a few things today and interacting with you, I have a few videos to play. So just indulge me. The reason why I'm playing this video is, Pastor Shala said a lot, but I just wanted to show you just, maybe another 5 to 7 minutes of a few videos that I've been involved with. 90% of these videos were produced by me. So you just have an idea of some of the things that I've into. So Rachel, if you can just play the videos for us, that would be great. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Ayeni, and I'm a content creator, a creative director, a filmmaker, and a television broadcast technologist. I have a passion for cinematography, a passion for content creation, but most of all, I love storytelling, and that's what it's all about.
Welcome to Creative Rhino. We create high-end, original content. We bring your stories to life. We can color your movies. We create docudramas. And we manage all elements of live broadcasts, including setting up TV studios and training staff. We create end-to-end advertisements for luxury products and for events. We do voiceover, and we give you full post-production support. We bring you creative flair, backed by a professional broadcast and post-production studio. This is Creative Rhino.
Just keep it going. Rachel, keep it going. Next slide.
Marshall and Brown Gourmet Jamaican Rum Truffles. Working with an award-winning master chocolatier, Marshall and Brown have created a gourmet range of luxury handmade rum truffles and vegan rum truffles. They're infused with finest Jamaican rum. These sinfully delicious truffles are irresistible. They're seductive, and the experience of biting into that wonderful ganache with its soft, creamy interior is the quintessence of chocolate pleasure. Marshall and Brown, London, the ultimate rum truffle for the chocolate connoisseur. So my name is Hilary Moore, and I'm the author of the Brave Strong Girls series. There are 3 books in the series. The first one is Brave Strong Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, a rewriting of the traditional tale. The second is The Brave Strong Mermaid. And the third is an original. It's called Brave Strong Ayeni and the Race of a Lifetime. It's about a girl who doesn't accept the rule that only boys can race in a famous pony race. So that was the inspiration behind these books, to write books with strong female characters, full of character, full of mischief, intelligence, initiative, and maybe a bit of beauty too, but that isn't what matters the most.
Is there anything impossible for me to do? It's time to surpass your limits and discover your true potential at the International Gathering of Champions 2022 Limitless with host Pastor Matthew Shimalowo.
The righteous shall be bold like a lion. You will never see a lion with some bodyguard.
And guests TD Jakes,
When you have fallen in love with God, your value changes.
Mensa Onabil,
She took charge. We are looking for Deborahs who know how to rise.
Debo Oliomi,
His kingdom be established through us on earth.
IGOC 2022, Impartation for Change and Empowerment. August 24th through the 28th at KICC Prayer City, ME5 9QG. For all things IGOC, visit igoc.org.uk.
KICC TV.
It's very, very, very powerful.
Watch live TV on the go.
We need to bring souls to Christ like you take that child.
Hang in there, don't quit now.
Choose what to watch on demand.
Jesus died.
The Holy Spirit will abide with you forever.
Choose where to watch. Web, TV, app. Take KICC TV anywhere you go. Available on the App Store, Play Store, and your free-to-air box. Timely technology, timeless truth. KICC TV, now showing on Roku.
Thank you. I just want to thank the media team for just making this smooth for me, all right? All right, just by a show of hands, how many writers do we have in the house? If you're a writer, fantastic. How many cameramen do we have in the house? Camera people, fantastic. How many actors do we have in the house? Good. How many post-production people do we have in the house? So if you're into editing, photography, any photographers in the house? Good. I'm just trying to connect with those that are here. And then, obviously, the rest of us who are considering jumping into any of these fields, okay? I want to first thank Pastor Shola for bringing all this together. I mean, not just this event. I just want to talk about the fact that, you know, after high school, I was one of those kids that just like you, something was burning on the inside. And I had gone to computer school, and I was training in a computer school, but I always wanted to do something about graphics. And when I would have conversations with him, he's like, if you're really interested in this, you know, we can make it happen. I think one of the hardest things for me initially was Pastor Shola had the opportunity to travel abroad and would bring all these flyers from abroad that I mean, then there was no internet. And he would bring a flyer, maybe from a church or like, posters for these films. And he would drop it on the table. He would tell me, this is the computer. They either used CorelDRAW on this stuff or Photoshop. And he would give me the manual. Now, when he said it, he just did this. But what you guys don't realize that's actually the volume of these books. So we're talking about probably sometimes thousands of pages on how to. And then he would take a picture and he would tell me to create something for Lighthouse. Then it was Oasis of Love. And he would tell me that there's a program in 2 weeks or maybe less. And he would tell me with these pictures he has given me, I should use this, create what I have seen, but replace it with Lighthouse. I mean, guys, seriously. And so I had a regular job, but I would close and then go to his house. So dinner was provided. And one of the things that I did not really like was Pastor Shola doesn't sleep. So the point where you're feeling inspired around 1 a.m. to just doze, I could see his office through the kitchen, through the dining room table. I could see his light on. And he would just stroll out casually to ask me how far. So I'm basically, no, seriously, true life story. I am reading this book on how to crop, how to cut people out, and then I'm looking at the tool in CorelDRAW. I did in CorelDRAW what I was supposed to have used Photoshop for. When I found out later that with Photoshop I would have saved her the time, it was years later. The bottom line is we got a lot of those flyers done. I found another way to get it done with the tools that I have. Some of us have this today. Honestly, this thing will tell a lot of stories. You may not need to buy the iPhone, but if you're a serious creative, yeah, and you're going to buy a phone, I'll be honest with you, it's better to spend over 100K because of the camera in the phone you're about to buy than to just buy a very big tablet, yeah, that looks good but it's not functional. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I learned how to do things with the tool that I had at that point. And over time, I started learning more tools to add to what I'm doing. And that's basically what I will be covering today. So at any given point, I hope I have the time. I'm looking at I'm counting down myself just to make sure I can give you enough. Now, everything that I showed you there are things that I did. Most of them, 90% of the content were generated by me. I shot them myself. But I learned several years ago, like he said, 26 years ago, how to read and apply. Not all of you can go to a film school. If you get a chance to, please do. But today on YouTube, the same data you would use for creatives here, all right? The same data you're using to consume other people's content, you can use it to learn how to create your own content. I would watch today, trust me, that discipline, I would watch for 6 hours non-stop. I am learning how to set light. I'm trying to create something. I will watch different people talk about lighting. And what kind of lighting, what mood, what am I trying to create, how to set that light. I will watch the videos over and over without, it's just become, I've trained myself. It's going to be repetitive. You would do it and do it and do it again till you get to where you want to get to. The other thing Pastor Shola taught me was excellence. The one message a lot of us that are currently abroad, one message he preached was the spirit of excellence. Reverend Shola does not compromise. You know where you think, after you faded someone off and then there's a part of their hair, just one small hair, that you could have just ignored. Pastor Shola will just tell you, stop, zoom in. And he'll be like, how do you feel this is in your eyes, that this is actually Perfect. What would it have taken you to have just removed that hair? Then when I remove it, you're like, doesn't it look better? Repetitive behavior. Don't give up. I'm just talking about creative. Whether you're a cameraman, whatever it is you are, don't give up. You know, there's some people when they take shots, and I'm just for cameramen, all right? I learned how to walk when you take shots without having to, you know, if you walk like this, the image will be jumping. How to manage to take a shot and learn how to be still. It's muscle you have to develop. You're not just going to pick your camera one day and then you want it to be smooth. You want to act like, you know, some people feel they don't need what is called a gimbal, something that will balance, and then you hold. And then when you look at the shot afterwards, you're like, it's 4K. Who sent? The person who shot in fact, let's even use standard definition, without the camera shaking, is a better shot than you that shot 4K with a shaking camera. It's just little things, or where you place things. So you've watched all those adverts, and I'm you know, the things that I've done, and I will go more into it as time permits. Two things. If I'll repeat this, I'll say this now, and I'll repeat it at the end. You need passion, and you need a spirit of excellence. You need passion. Passion is what is not going to make you give up. Because trust me, people are going to knock your job down. They will tell you, you know, people are designing. You call this a design. You may do it over, but guess what? The more you do it, you will begin to see things. So you need to be passionate, because if you're not passionate as a creative, you think you're the only one creating content. How many millions of contents are consumed in a day? Why the heck do I have to waste my time to watch yours? So it means you have to repeat it till you can look at it and say, yes, this is good. I am my worst critic. I will finish an ad. It's just 1 minute. I will watch that ad like maybe 20 times. I'm not kidding you. On a big screen. I will keep playing it. I'll be looking for, frame by frame, looking for mistake, because I remember when Pastor Shola would spot that frame. It's stuck in my head that someone is going to see that thing that you thought they did not see. So I watch it over and over and over again. I'm listening to the sound. Is this too loud? Is that too, you know, how does that feel? And then I will leave it for a few minutes, come back and watch it again. And then when I'm sure that I'm good, then I will call. I have a couple of friends, like Pastor Wale said, I have a couple of friends who criticize my work. Then I will send it to them before it goes to the client. Not like, no, you're done. You're happy with yourself. Can everyone see this iPad on the screen? Can you tell if it's on or off? No, you can't. It's currently, the screen is off. But I can see the screen, you can't. No matter what you do, there are different perspectives. So while you have your passion, yeah? Passion is what drives you to do what you're doing. Excellence is when other people have criticized it. Like Pastor Wale said, if you think the song is good, try it in your congregation. First of all. So let people criticize you. There are people who just feel they know too much and they can't be criticized. They're like, I've been doing this for 10 years. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. Are you communicating? Fortunately, I have a partner who's what they call a comms expert. You know, communications people. If you're into communications, when I finish the work, by the time she watches it, she'll be like, what was the message you were trying to pass? And then when I said that, she's like, actually, that wasn't what I got. You can imagine after all the hard work. And she's like, okay, if that was the message, it was only at this part of it that I got that message. The rest of it, then I will go back, and then the part that she said, I would now readjust that and then send. The times I've ignored it and I've just maybe sent to a couple of friends, I'll be like, I didn't really get that same message. So I realized that as a creative, even as a writer, you write and you have a perspective. let other people see your work and let them criticize and tell you. It helps. And that is where excellence comes in. Excellence is not a singular point of view. So let people see your work. I'm kind of going off script. I have a script here, but I'm going off script, and I just feel is what certain people need to hear at the moment. Excellence. So we're creatives. So the reason why we're here is so that we can create dynamic things. So let me just get into practical mode. I am not a writer. I'm not a writer. I found that out a long time ago that I'm not a writer. But I know how to interpret things. If you write and give it to me, I can produce. And not from the point of being a producer, because there are producers and there are directors. So, you know, the producer is the one who will bring all the elements together. Oh, we're trying to do this project. We'll be talking to the writer. We'll be talking to the director. We'll be talking to the director of photography. That is the job of the producer. I am not a director. I actually realized over time that I'm more a director of photography. And not that I cannot direct a movie or direct something. I mean, I produce adverts. That's one direction. Give me all the information. I begin to bring everything together, and I can do that. But when it comes to when we're working together as a team, list of things or list of departments that go into producing one thing, I am more a director of photography. Who is the director of photography? I'm the guy who, when you say we want to shoot this place, I'm looking at the lights. What story are we trying to tell? I'm looking at the background. So the director tells me, I want this lady when she comes in to look sad. You know, this lady is sad. And she's going to walk into her room. And she's going to sit down in this place. It's a sad scene. So the director is concerned about making sure the actors are doing it the right way and all that. Director of photography is the guy who knows the angle the camera should be at to tell the story you're trying to tell and what should not be there. So for example, I'm just going to go back if the camera guys can follow me, yeah? So if I stay here, can you just follow me? Now, I'm going to stay here. What stands out more here? Is it me or this red? It doesn't matter how I'm talking from now till tomorrow. Do you know you subconsciously, you find yourself looking at this red. Someone will like, but yeah, it's a creative. 90% of what I will say you will not remember. Because that number 8 that is red is telling more story than what I'm saying. So it's the job of the director of photography to say that 8 is going to be distracted. Let's move it here. Let's arrange it in this way. Rachel, if you just in the background, just on the screen, just play the other video I talked about, the long one. It says Juliet interview or something. Just put it on the screen while I'm talking, all right? Because I'll refer to it. As creatives, we have to work together. When I started doing this thing, I did not realize for a long time that what I've always wanted to do was film. Everything I wanted to do was film. I would watch film. Like, you know, some of you don't even realize that's probably what it is. That it's not the story that you're watching. I realized it wasn't the stories that I was watching. It was the how. How did this person, you know, the way that camera looked, how did they zoom in? It was all about storytelling. So what you're seeing on the screen, you know, while I'm talking I hope those at home can see it. What you're seeing on the screen is, this was recorded in Dallas, Texas, I think March this year. And if you look at those two people sitting down, you will know who the main subject is. The color of what she's wearing. Later on in the stuff, you see the face of the person sitting on the right, but the way I framed that shot, and this is for you doing for creatives, the way I framed that shot, there's a reason why she's wearing that yellow. You see that light at her back to her, was not there just because of anything. There is a reason. So if you are shooting, you're a cameraman, you're doing stuff, one of the rules of thumb is if it is not adding to your story, take it away. Anything in that frame, what is a frame? What you can see. Okay? What you can see is a frame. If it is not adding to your story, take it away. The reason why that lamp is there, it's not as though it's not adding any light to anything. It is just creating what we call depth of field, just to show you where things are. And that color, the orange color, is similar to our skin. So later on, when you have the time and you watch any film and they're sitting there and talking, you would always see that lamp. Because the guys who have done it over and over again, it helps create depth of field. The light is not really doing anything. It's like an artificial light. It doesn't have to be there. So you just note it down. Just go and watch any film. Yeah? And you see them sitting in a room. You will now suddenly start to see this light. It's been there since so. But you've never paid attention. But what I've done is I've composed that scene. Now, let me tell you something that we do in film or in television. I will spend more time on film and things like that. Is when I started shooting this thing, we had planned that we were going to shoot this around 1. And I'd hoped I would finish this interview maybe around 3 at the most. I woke up in the morning. It took 3 hours to set this up. To set up, I'm not saying to shoot. To set up this, what looks so simple, took about 3 hours to get the light right. But I also knew that at a point, because we're using the sun initially from what you're seeing, you know the sun, if cloud enter the sun now, overcast and all that stuff, your light will start to change. So if you are into production, you need light. You need light. So what I did was I opened this shot and asked the person to talk just so that we can establish the scene. So you see where they are. This is just to establish the scene. But the lady who we're going to interview took a long time to get ready. Sorry, ladies, no disrespect. But she took too long as far as I was concerned. At the point we were about to shoot, I was pissed. I was already angry. Because we should have started shooting at 1. We were starting to shoot at 3. Which meant the light that I was hoping to work with was going to drop. Now, what I planned, I knew it wasn't going to work. So what I did was shoot this scene, the whole interview, just go straight, just to have a wide shot. And then when we went to close-up shot, and this is what you may not notice in Hollywood or in or Nollywood when they shoot, is when they do the close-up scene, which is the one that doesn't show everything, they have to adjust the light now again. Because we have to focus on the face. Right now, you're not really focusing on any face. Even though you can see her, it's not as close. It's not much. But the lights have to be adjusted. So when we were going to do the closer scene, what we then did was I had to replicate this light that you're seeing to bring light, put it by the side. And one of the tools we use for lighting, a lot of people don't use it, it's a light meter. So I had read this light with a light meter, knowing how much intensity of light we used at this scene. And then when I did the closer shot, I had to use the same light meter to adjust that light until it gave me the same reading because if you don't, I'm just saying, if you don't do that, I don't know how you watch some films. When you finish the film, you know what the story is, but the way you're feeling after the film is not the way the story. So this is a close-up shot. This is no longer the light from outside. This is artificial light that I've used to match the light from outside. Because as at the time we got to a point of it, there was no longer light outside. So if you watch some film, after a while, you're just wondering that this girl was light at the beginning and suddenly the scene is changing. That is why some of our movies don't make it to the film festivals. Because the guys at the film festivals, they pay attention to this. That consistency. Now, this project is a project, and it's a sad one, because she is a 15-year breast cancer survivor. I'm shooting a documentary on breast cancer. And as at this point in March, I had interviewed 3 ladies. She's a survivor. I interviewed 2 other ladies. One of them had done a single mastectomy, and these are friends. One of them had done a single mastectomy. If you don't know what a mastectomy is, it's when the breast is removed. So one of them had done a single mastectomy. The second one had done a double mastectomy. Now, for a lot of you that don't know this, you know, breast cancer kills more African women than any other disease. And it is growing. And these ladies get breast cancer when they're they're in their 30s. So, I mean, that's another story. So I shot 3 women. In August, the one with a single mastectomy passed away. And 6 weeks later, the one with double mastectomy passed away. But I had to capture these stories. And so this is the only one so far. And we're going around Africa and recording and, you know, putting this documentary together just to inform people. But you see, I just told you a story. I just told you a story without even hearing what she's saying. But now, imagine, now that you know the story, are you not looking at her differently? And she had a single mastectomy and has done breast reconstruction. The whole essence of what you're trying to do is tell a story. So I just stood here. When we first showed it, all you saw was if I was a guy, it's a fine babe in yellow. For other ladies, some of you are dissing that hair, isn't that old hair? And, you know, and some of the creatives here are looking at going, that's a very nice, it's very sharp. You know, it's clean. But you didn't even know the story behind it. But now I just told you the story behind it, and suddenly, even without hearing anything that she's saying, it is already communicating a message. There is empathy. You start to feel empathy. You start to feel all this thing. If that light on the side was blinking, you know when the light is not, the bulb, the connection is one kind. And you just leave it. That's the only thing people will see. They're trying to listen, but that flicking light, that half current is just going to mess things up. Thank you. It will change the story. They'll think you're trying to act horror film. It's these little things. So anything you're putting in your frame, and for those of you who write storyboards, this is another group of people who will write the storyboard as in what happens. You have to determine whether what you're putting in that storyboard adds to the story. So you can also, from the advert we played earlier, there's a difference between when I'm doing an advert for a church or I'm doing an advert for a product. The one thing that I pay attention to is that make sure your work is clean. Make sure your work is clean. And 2 things make work very clean. Lighting. I know that sometimes you want to shoot something and it's outside. Ask yourself, how consistent is that light going to be to what you're creating? It's easy to distribute things on social media and people would like it, they won't say much, you know, it will go past. But if you want to monetize your work, and this is key, unless you don't want to monetize it, you're just doing it for free. But if you want to monetize your work, especially those in production, then make sure it is clean. Clean means it is excellent. It is better to just have a white background, well-lit person. That's a clean job than to, some of us, in Nigeria, we can have some chairs that is so fancy. Everything is glittering. You put light, the light is bouncing off all the studs and all that. So you're like, it's still correct. Meanwhile, the light that is bouncing is creating glares on your subject, and all you're looking at is what the person is, you're looking at is what is around. No, you have to compose your shot. I've done things in church for a long time, and as you can see, I produce all the adverts for KICC in London. And it is to constantly make sure that when you watch a church ad, you think you're watching something, a blockbuster trailer. But also, if you pay attention, I also make sure that the sound is not all over the place and the sound is balanced. Sound is important. Sound is important. If you're using your phone, there are some cheap microphones you can buy now that is Bluetooth. So if you're going to use your phone to record, which is great, just buy the cheap Bluetooth one. Invest in it. It's better to have a cheap quality sound than a bad sound. What is a bad sound? It sounds like I'm just speaking gibberish. If I take my camera from here and I'm recording, let's just say Pastor Shola, for example, and he's talking and the camera is here, there is a big gap between the camera. And so you hear this hollow. He'll be sounding like, yes, you know that. You won't know when you will switch off. Naturally, because have you realized that, Pastor Wale, let me say, for example, if you were there and I want to have a conversation with you, who has ever, well, it happens here in Nigeria, especially when you're warning someone from a distance. I did warn you, that's from a distance, yeah? But if I'm having a conversation with people, 90% of the time, if you're talking to someone, you talk to them like this, right? Subconsciously, that is what we know true sound to be like. The proximity. And you can tell. We do it every day. So whenever you now hear a sound, we don't raise our voice to talk. We have conversations. So when you're recording your sound and you now put the camera here, and the camera you put here, this is where the microphone is. Then you know how we'll now increase, in post-production, we'll be increasing the noise. Because between this and here, there is space, there's an empty space. And this empty space has noise. And the clarity of that person's audio. I mean, ladies, for example, just don't take it personal, guys. If a guy is trying to toast you, yarn you, or whatever, there's a way you're like, see, it's so far. You'll be like, I did. Because there's a way he has spoken. And he has to be close. You can hear how my voice has changed. But imagine if I'm trying to yarn you and I go, see, how far, fine babe, by your side. You start looking at the person like bad market. So for those of us creating content, that's the same concept. Where is the audio? Record, like, there's this tape that I use. It's just a regular tape. Take the same microphone, hide it in between the person's cleavage. For guys, you just put the microphone there, use sellotape, tape them. And then record it, even if it's bad audio. Because I've watched some of these Nigerian skits where those people will hide the camera, someone will be talking from a distance, and you can see that the camera is far, but you can hear the conversation going on very clear. You will enjoy the skit because the audio sounds the way you and I have regular conversations. So sound is very important. Another thing I would just say for those of you who shoot, and it's a very small, simple concept, is they tell you to shoot from the shadow side. Shoot from the shadow side. So look at this girl. I could have naturally, what I should have done is put the light here. But the camera is where the shadow is. It is more complementary. Can you hear me? As long as you can still hear me, that's fine. Shoot from the shadow side. It is better to just have one light and shoot from the side of that, from the opposite side of the light, because conventionally you want to shoot at the angle where the light is. But for television, for film, those of you who want to shoot film or music video, don't light the people's face. The only place where we do full lighting is daytime television, and that's why it's called daytime television. They will remove every shadow. And fashion photography, you light every aspect, you don't put shadows. But for creative work, even if you don't have the money, it's when you're trying to get too much light that you end up thinking you're shooting something that is an interview. This is interview style. So it's just, look, even if this girl has nothing to say, just the way it looks, I'm not just trying to hail my work, but just the way you say, "Mo, we hear with she won't talk, Seth." I would also just quickly, just looking at the time that I have. How many of you sometimes you have your TV on, but the audio is off? But the TV is just on. And you put it on certain channel. You're not hearing what they're saying, but the TV is on. Have you realized that most times it's certain channels that you like to watch, because what you don't realize is the quality of that channel. That it is just playing in the background. But because it was properly done, just like this girl that is just still talking and we don't have an idea. Visually, it needs to be strong. Visually, it needs to be strong. And I'm focusing on those doing visuals. For the writers, you write the stories that we have to produce at the end of the day. But for those of you who are behind the camera or who are cutting, who are in post-production, how you frame your shot is important. I think for a second there, they just showed the other girl. It's how you frame your shot. So one of the two things, I'm just going to quickly read something to you, and this is just reading. It's an excerpt that I got from Matt Peters, and it's all about our world. So just... It encompasses some of the things that I've said, but I think this is important, all right? I don't want to wing it, and so I'm just going to read through it. And please, as much as you can, just take it in. The art of storytelling is a vital part of creating compelling content. As content creators, our main goal is to engage our target audience and get them interested in what we are sharing. We are storytellers. The history of storytelling goes back thousands of years to oral storytelling, like Tales by Moonlight, and cave paintings. But a lot has changed. In today's world, telling a story that will stand out amongst thousands of other pieces of content available on the internet and mobile app is not an easy feat. We have entered a new era of advertising. No longer is the most effective marketing techniques intrusive advertising, which is the advert is playing, you can't do anything about it, you have to wait till it finishes. Consumers are able to fast forward through ads or simply swipe down past content they don't want to see. Since an audience isn't being forced to watch or read anything anymore, it means that to truly engage an audience, we need to be able to create something the demographic wants to see. Telling a story as a means of marketing is no longer a creative choice. It's a necessity. Storytelling techniques like framing, plot, character development, and narrative all have their place within content creation. The frame that you write your story with can really change the feeling of a story. What does the narration give away? From whose point of view is the story being told? How the text conveys the narrative can really change how the story is understood by the audience. Most content pieces are told through a subjective framework, meaning our brand story is told through a character's point of view. So when you're writing, for those of you who are writing stories and you want to put 5 characters, telling stories from 5 characters, that's a different way of doing things. But every story you've seen today, any film you watch, is from someone's point of view. Whoever the hero is, or the main subject, it's always from someone's point of view. You can write your story, and it's from the story of the houseboy, housegirl, maid. That is the person that is giving you the gist of what is going on. Sorry, 1 second. Some other, I'll just go to visual. I'll skip this. Photos are extremely powerful visual storytelling tool. In terms of storytelling, photos can relay aspects of a narrative, the character and setting, but video storytelling can be extremely effective and historically has been very successful. So from all the millions when Pastor Wale was talking about the films, including Big Brother, these are all visual stories. And they seem to want to be the ones that bring in the bigger pay, because a lot of people are involved in it. But this is one thing I want to tell you. If you're going to work, if you're going to be successful, work with a team. Work with a team. I'm glad I've heard Pastor Wale, what you've done opening the studio, and Pastor Shala opening the studio for people to learn. Work with a team. Because today, the biggest names that are producers and directors, they have worked with almost the same set of teams for years. Don't always go at it solo. That's the one thing in Nigeria. One person wants shine. One person wants to shine. It's all about a collective. How many of you watch end credits at the end of a movie? You see all these big films. Look at the end credit. It tells you how many people came together for what you've seen. When a movie costs 150 million to produce, what you don't realize, it's not the technology that costs, it's the human power, human resources. It's the human resources that is costing that much. Because when you have about 1,000 people working on one project, and sometimes they're paying them like maybe $500 to over $1,000 a day, and they're shooting that project for 2 months. Do the math. Then you think by yourself, you want to be the director, the producer, the writer, so that at the end of the day, it's only your name. And you see it in a lot of movie, producer, your name, this, your name, this is your name. One person, why wouldn't the movie be it won't go far, it can't. It's when someone will criticize your work, you're like, when the guy jumps, like when he lands, you now fall and say, hey! So I'm like, but that place no high now. If he's going to shout that kind of shout, let's raise the... Honestly. So when you criticize and criticize and criticize, everyone will now say, okay, this makes sense. Because we all see things in parts. We all see things. Just look around you. Look around you. And you can meet people at the studio and use technology. I mean, when Pastor Wale, when you were playing the Nazarene song, all I did was just pick my phone. I'd never heard that song before. I just went to an app called Shazam, and I just listened, and it just told me, it means when I go home now, I can go buy it. When you do a good job, look for the platforms that you can register with. Some of you will like, no, we believe when we pray about it, it will, no. Find the platforms that distribute the kind of content that you're producing and put it out there so that people can find you. Sometimes it's when you've done one great hit, then people will now recognize that actually you've done other 5 or 7 or 10 other things that they did not even realize you'd done before, and suddenly all those things begin to come up. So I want to just spend the last 10 minutes, which is what I have, by just challenging us. to start with the tools that we have. You have an idea, just write it down. Some ideas that, might be an inspiration from God or just an inspiration may not even be relevant today. It may become relevant in 5 years' time. Because some movies you're seeing today, they probably were written like 5, 10 years ago. So just because you're having an inspiration right now does not mean it has to come out now. It may not be the season for it. If you release that thing when it's not in its season, then it will not generate the right thing. So for writers, for example, just keep writing. You have tools, your phone. Your phone is always with you. You may not always have a pen. Your phone is always with you. Just keep writing your ideas. Just keep writing your ideas, because one day you just don't know when something will come up and they're working on something else. Oh, they're doing this project. You're like, I've written this, and it becomes relevant. Just keep writing. For those of you who are cameramen, don't wait till when there is an event for you to practice how you hold your cameras. Look, you all have a phone today. Record a lot of things. Play back and watch yourself. It's better to have a tripod and to have a still shot that is not moving. You see, once your camera starts to shake, it does not matter how good what you're trying to capture. That shaking will just turn people off. You've lost that opportunity. For those of you who cut, who edit things, I have one simple rule for editors. If you're editing something, and editing job is not easy. So for those who edit, I give you props. I learned a simple technique over time when I realized what frustrates me when I watch other people's content. And that's when I'm watching and my emotions are all over the place. I don't feel steady, like it's moving in a direction. And sometimes you edit, the music will just jump or become loud and all that imbalance. So when I start to play my adverts, this is what I do. You may use it, you may not, you need to use it. It's not written anywhere, but I found out over time that the way I'm listening, I start to move my hand. So when I play an advert, I start to move my hand as it's going. If I find myself stopping at any point before I move, it means at that point it didn't make sense. It might have been the sound. Something jumped or something. Just if I can't pull my hand straight, keep going while that advert is playing and I keep going without stopping. If I stop or slow down, it means something there is not right. I will try it a few times and I'll find myself stopping, and then maybe it's a transition that I use there. It just jumped too much. I will change it and feel till I can move from left to right without having to stop. And at the end of the day, if that goes through, I know that technically speaking, it is smooth. So for those of us that do post-production, whether you're doing stuff for church or you're doing stuff in whatever it is you're doing, ask yourself if that thing makes you stop. For you producing it, does it make you stop? And if you're someone who finds yourself that you're... I have a studio, all right, which I was very proud to show Pastor Shola when he came to London, because it's taken me years. As in, when I say years, it's probably taken me as much as over 20 years, to get there, because it is not cheap. But I wanted a post-production studio that I can cut my job in, that I had everything that I needed, which meant it was going to cost me thousands and thousands. I could have gone to look for a loan somewhere. I didn't want to go that route. So it took me a longer route, which meant with every job that I did, I would take something out of there and buy a software. So when I was working on this project and I wanted to work on sound and I needed my sound to be clean, I went and checked what Hollywood used in cleaning their sound. This software was $900. To clear, I said, wait, which kind of talk would they talk? But when I read through all the reviews, I realized that is what they use, so that the sound is crisp. Guys, it's not a boast. It took a while. But I swallowed my pride. And I got that software. And trust me, when I send things and people are like, you see all that thing I was playing and you guys are just feeling the sound. Yes, I can tell the difference. I wanted to buy a microphone because, this is nothing to do with boasting, and so please just know, I'm just saying it from a point of observation. Start with what you can afford. The smaller, a good sound, however poor the quality is better than just empty space. So start somewhere, and then when you have the money, then start, or go and borrow from someone who has one, that you can get a good sound. I wanted to record my audios, and I was going to be traveling, record my audios, and I started looking for what the professionals use. Man, when I saw this microphone that seemed to be the one that they use all the time, it was going to cost £900 for one microphone. So, obviously, there was this fight within me. Just the same way you're having that fight now. Because it means if you buy this phone, now Gary, you go drink. That will be the alternative. But I then watched a guy who arranged all the microphones together, and he said he read the same statement in all of them. And I realized why they picked this microphone. This particular microphone makes everyone's voice sound almost as original as you talk, as though the person is right beside you. It's not about being crisp. There was something, it had this natural feel. I was like, but I had to listen to the other microphones with the same thing to realize why Hollywood for years, and this microphone was made in the 40s. It's not a new microphone. It was made in the 40s. But that's the one they use every time. And the thing is rugged. After I saw the price, I just knew I'd invested other things. I didn't know when it would happen. So fortunately for me, a good friend was like, you've really spent money on this thing. That's why it's good to at least be showing your work, you know. And then I said, I'm trying to shoot this thing. I've bought everything visually. Those of us that buy lens and all that. To now invest in audio. And if you don't know it, audio is 50% of your production. 50% audio is 50% of your production. Because you're listening to me because I'm using this microphone. You're listening to me because I'm as close to you as possible. So when I spoke to my friend and said, this is what's going on, I need to buy this microphone. After they looked at what I had invested, the person said to me, he said, David, let this be my gift to you. I will buy you this microphone. And that's how I got the microphone. And another friend was like, oh, if you have that, you've done it. And all I needed to do was to show them what I've been doing. You see why you should record yourself and do it well? Because when they saw the quality of the things that I was doing, they're like, no, you can take this to the next level. What do you need? I needed to buy a recorder. The recorder was £500. The one that I wanted to buy after research was like £500. And another friend bought that recorder for me. There are people that would encourage you, but they need to see what you're doing. Because I have a passion for this stuff, and I have also just worked on the spirit of work with the spirit of excellence, or just making excellence my drive. I will record that audio over and over and over again. I learned in recording that if you're going to shoot outside, at least have minimum 2 sources of audio. So I have backup audio, just in case one messes up. Because once you start to record, you wouldn't even know when maybe that microphone has stopped working. So I have the cheap one inside the people, just taped inside them, recording to my camera, and I have my main microphone. Just in case something happens, you may never be able to recapture that moment. I have backup. But that is what excellence requires. So don't give up. I'll end by saying this because, yes, I have about 48 seconds. Your passion is great. Passion is good. Because you need that passion to keep repeating, even when people tell you your stuff is not good enough. I got to a presentation with another guy who was using this expensive camera. When this guy did his presentation, I was coming after him. I just said to myself, there's no point. If you see the big cameras this guy was doing his presentation with, he sat down on a chair like a director. You know, he recorded himself. These guys asked for a presentation. They gave both of us 5 minutes. His own 5 minutes presentation, he sat down, talked about it, showed clips of what he has done. He was talking in there. The guy looked like he had made it the way he sat down. I just said, what's the point? I can't compete with this guy. But what I did, yeah, that's my time up. But what I did was, you know the first video I showed you guys that had me and all that stuff? So I did a 90 seconds video of everything that I do. And then I spoke for 3 minutes about some of the things that I'm going to do. And at the end of the day, I was the one that was called back. And the lady, I asked her, I'm like, but this other guy did such a great job. Why am I the one you called back? She said, I had ideas of things that I wanted to do. When I saw your show reel, some of the things that we're thinking about doing, I saw that you were doing them already. So you quickly went straight to the point that, oh, I'm doing this, and you showed me. This guy was talking about, he spent time talking about his achievements and showed behind-the-scene footage. I just went straight to show the things that I have done. The same way I captured most of you, that's what I did, and I did that presentation. Believe it or not, that company is Walt Disney. Spirit of excellence and be passionate. Do it over and over and over and over again, because the more you get better, it will always reflect in your work. Thank you.